Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader, and welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. Now, this week I want to talk about the OPPO effect. Now, you may say, John, what is the OPPO effect and why is it important? Sit tight and you're going to find out because it is important. Now, I became interested in OPPO during the COVID-19 pandemic. You remember the world was shutting down and everybody went from face-to-face interactions to connecting and engaging inside of these little boxes, computer screens, and we were connecting through social media, through Zoom, through GoToMeeting, all the different channels that were out there. We were also text messaging, but we were no longer engaging face-to-face. Now, OPPO's always been with us, and it was present before the shutdown, but it intensified during the pandemic. Now, OPPO's been one of the root causes of stress, depression, anxiety, groupthink, manipulation, and control of the masses going back generation and generation. In fact, over thousands of years of human history, OPPO has been around. OPPO is a major contributor to a lack of self-confidence, a decline in self-esteem, and the devaluing of an individual's worth and value going all the way back to the annals of recorded history. Now, OPPO has restrained, impeded, or otherwise limited in some way the ability of millions of talented men and women to rise to their full potential and to achieve a high level of personal and professional success. Now, you and I experience OPPO every time we post on social media, every time we tune into a news broadcast, every time we listen to an influencer, we read a newspaper, or we have a conversation with another person. And if you're not careful, OPPO is going to influence what you think, what you say, what you do, and who or what you ultimately become. And OPPO can leave you less than your best, or at least leave you lacking in some way. Now, you and I not only experience OPPO, but we exert OPPO on other people as well. It's often delivered without conscious thought because we don't think about what we're doing, we just do it. We give no thought to the ramifications of OPPO to another party, or we neither give any meaningful consideration to the impact OPPO can have on the life of someone else when we exert it on them. So at this point, you may be saying, John, what in the world is OPPO and why is it important? Well, OPPO is an acronym. It's an acronym for Other People's Personal Opinion. Now, I want you to think about that. Other people's personal opinion. Now, the Oxford Language Dictionary describes an opinion as number one, a view or a judgment that is formed about something, but not necessarily based on truth or knowledge. Think about that. A view or a judgment formed about something, but not necessarily based on truth, fact, or knowledge. Definition number two, the beliefs or views of a large number or a majority of people about a particular thing. Definition number three, an estimation of the quality or worth of someone or something. Now, when you think about opinions, especially other people's opinions, how does OPPO show up? How does it manifest itself in your life? And how do you exert OPPO on other people? Well, let's go back to the definition and break it down. First, OPPO shows up as a belief, but a belief not necessarily based on fact or knowledge, but that belief is passed on as truth to other people. It's what someone believes to be true, whether it's true or not. I mean, after all, if we read it on the internet, it's got to be true, right? I mean, remember back in ancient history, for many, many years, people believed the world was flat. And if you sailed to the end of the sea and you disappeared from the horizon, all of a sudden people thought you had fallen off the end of the earth. That belief, not based in fact or truth or knowledge, governed how many people acted and interacted with the seas around them. We knew that if you went off the end of the horizon and you disappeared into the sea, you might never return because you had fallen off the face of the earth. Now, you think about the ridiculousness of that statement, but it brings to bear about the importance of OPPO when it comes to believing something that someone believes to be true, but may not be based in fact or reality or actual true knowledge. Now, think about it again this way when it comes to this first definition, showing up as a belief not necessarily based in fact or knowledge, but is believed to be true, even if it's not. How many times have you tuned into a major media network? I mean, you pick the flavor: ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, Newsmax, WorldNet Daily. You pick the source out there, you're going to hear a gaggle of pundits debating, arguing, and disagreeing with their peers over certain topics. Each one of those individuals is spouting their brand of political or cultural group speak, claiming everything they are saying is the gospel truth. I love it all the time when I hear people say, let me make it perfectly clear. Now they're making a statement they believe to be true, even though it may not be true. Now, add to that all the alternative media outlets that are out there today, and lo and behold, you've got a plethora of opinions disguised as philosophies, ideals, and beliefs, not necessarily based in fact or knowledge or truth. Yet these individuals, if you watch them online, you watch them on the news, you read their articles in the press, here's what you find out. They fervently spout what they believe to be true, even if a preponderance of the evidence speaks to the contrary. Remember this: their opinion is their opinion, nothing more. Now, secondly, OPPO often shows up as groupthink. Go online, go to any social media platform. You're going to be inundated with people who are more than willing to share their opinion of the truth, despite any lack of knowledge, wisdom, experience, or understanding of the subject matter. I crack up at some of the crazy things I hear people saying on Facebook, on Instagram, on other social media platforms, claiming to be an expert and knowing they don't have a clue what they're talking about. And I know you're smiling as you hear me say this, because you can think of individuals just like that. Now, what's interesting about these individuals, they espouse what they believe to be true, what they believe to be real, even if it's not. And if you don't conform to their narrow view of the world, if you don't conform to their opinion of the facts, they're going to attack you, they're going to shun you, and they're going to attempt to cancel you. But interestingly enough, because most people want to fit in, most people want to feel like they belong to something, OPPO has become a means to intact compliance. It forces people to conform. Because if you want to belong and you want to be a part of the in group, well, you've got to think a certain way, because everybody in the in group thinks that way. You've got to speak a certain way because everybody in the in group speaks that way. You've got to act a certain way because everybody in the in group acts a certain way. And if you don't do those things, you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in. And most people are more willing to conform than they are to be the unique individuals that they are. Now, one of the things I've said in prior podcasts, I want to make sure you don't forget, is this: when you allow somebody else to dictate what you say, what you do, and what you become, you're no longer in control of your life. OPPO now owns you. Now, the third way OPPO manifests itself is in assigning value to someone or something. I think the greatest example of this are advertisers use OPPO. They use OPPO to influence the purchase of goods and services that you and I spend money on every single day. What do? They go out and they hire influencers, they hire celebrities, they hire spokespeople that we know and trust, or we have some belief or faith in. Why? Because it adds to the illusion of truth that this product or this service is more valuable simply because of who is promoting it. I mean, if it was just the product that was so good, why do they have to go out and get an A-lister to promote it? Why can't the product stand on its own 2 feet? Why does it need an A-lister? Because when an A-lister lends his or her credibility in the fact that we see value in that person because they're a movie star, they're a singer, they're an actor, they're a dancer, they're a sports person, and when they lean in and add their endorsement of that product, well, that product then has to be an A-lister product itself, right? I'll let you answer that one because, like me, you probably bought something that's been endorsed or you've seen some celebrity and you find out what they're endorsing wasn't really what it cracked up to be. But I want you to think about this when it comes to OPPO. In the early formative years of our lives, our brains were inundated with the beliefs and opinions of those around us. Our moms, our dads, our older siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, early influences in our lives, like our teachers, our pastors, and other people that were a part of those early 5, 6, 7, 8 years of our lives. They helped shape our view of the world and what you and I accept to be true or not, even if what we accept to believe isn't really true. Again, go back to how many people believed that if you went too far, you're going to fall off the end of the earth. That shows the stupidity of some opinions and beliefs. But again, if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And that's the way it is when we're growing up. We didn't have a filter. We didn't know truth from untruth. So we accepted what our influencers gave us and we embraced it as our own. It didn't matter if what they shared with us was a truth, a partial truth, or an outright lie, whether it was baked in reality or it was some fictional thing that was made up. Early adoption of OPPO was influential and instrumental in our personal development. And once we entered the education system, once we went to school and we wanted to fit in, guess what? OPPO was there and it went to work on our lives once again. OPPO helped define who we are, what we wore, what we talked about, what music we enjoyed, what movies or TV shows we embraced and watched, what celebrities and influencers we followed, what social media apps we frequented and hung out on, and what causes we championed in our community and around the world. Because if we didn't do those things, we couldn't fit in and we wouldn't belong. Now, even after we finish up our primary education, OPPO continues its relentless efforts to influence, to persuade, to manipulate, or to control us in some way throughout our lives. OPPO shows up in the workplace. It shows up in higher education in our universities and even in our trade schools. It shows up in culture and it shows up in society. Understand this. As long as there are other people, there will always be OPPO. As long as there are other people, there will always be other people's personal attention. Now, once you know how OPPO shows up, here's the question. How do you respond to OPPO? How do you make sure that OPPO isn't persuading you, influencing you, manipulating you, or controlling you in some way? Very simply, you've got to recognize OPPO for what it is. Now, OPPO, other people's personal opinion, is focused to get you to think, to act, or to do just like someone else. And if OPPO can get enough people thinking, acting, and doing the same things the same way, society stagnates, innovation wanes, and success gets stifled. Because if you do the same thing everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same results everybody else is getting. And if 95% of the world is living an average, mediocre, lackluster, unsuccessful life, and you do what everybody else is doing, guess what you're going to get more of in life? I want you to understand this. You are not like everyone else. Out of all the people in the world that have ever been created, you are unique. You are one of a kind. In fact, I was reading in a book the other day by Marcus Buckingham called Love Plus Work. Marcus Buckingham was talking about that there are 500,000 stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Let's just use that number. I don't remember the exact number. Let's just use that number for simple numbers. 500,000 stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Your brain and the unique wiring of your brain is the equivalent of hundreds of Milky Way galaxies. Nobody that's ever lived has the same configuration of synapses and neurons so that your brain functions unique and differently than anybody else in the world. And all of a sudden you begin to realize that you are unique. You are one of a kind. Nobody that has ever lived has been exactly like you, even if you're an identical twin. And nobody that will ever live in the future, no matter how long humanity continues on this planet, nobody who ever lives is going to be exactly like you either. Now, why is that important? Because when you understand that you are unique, you are one of a kind, you have been put on this earth on purpose for a purpose, and you have been equipped by your creator, be it God, be it the universe, be it nature, however you were created and formed, everything that you have need of to rise to the fullness of the potential of who you are is within. Everybody has within them a black belt leader waiting to be discovered, developed, and deployed. And when you begin to embrace that, OPPO begins to lose its influence over your life. Now, why is that important? Because OPPO fears uniqueness. Now, why is that important? Because uniqueness allows you to step into the greatness of who you are and the greatness of what you can become. There is a black belt leader inside of you waiting to be discovered, developed, and deployed. And you have the potential to become a world-class master of who you are and what you do if you're willing to do what successful people do daily to get to that point in your life. But when you discover the uniqueness of who you are and you begin to develop that uniqueness, OPPO begins to lose its influence over your life. Because when you begin to develop the black belt leader within you, you begin to position yourself so that you start to stand out, you start to get noticed, and you start to get ahead. And ultimately, here's what's going to happen. You're going to experience more success in life. Now, understand this about OPPO. Everybody has an opinion. You have an opinion. I have an opinion. We all have an opinion. But an opinion is just that, an opinion. Now, before we went through this massive inflation that we've been dealing with over the last few years, I used to tell people an opinion and $1 will get you a sweet tea at McDonald's. Today, an opinion and $1.89 will get you a sweet tea at McDonald's. Now, here's something else you need to know about opinions. You're entitled to have your own beliefs and opinions, and so is everybody else. You're entitled to speak or otherwise express your own beliefs and opinions, and so is everyone else. However, there's a but there. I want to put that but right there in the middle of what I'm saying. Just because you're entitled to have your own opinions, have your own beliefs, and you're entitled to speak your own opinions and your own beliefs, you are not entitled to force other people to believe your beliefs, to believe your opinions, to accept them, or to embrace them. I want you to hear that again. You are not entitled to force your opinions and beliefs on others. You can't force people to believe them, to accept them, or to embrace them, and they cannot do the same to you. An opinion is a truth, not necessarily based in facts or reality. Your opinion is your truth, but not necessarily the truth. Other people's opinions are their truth, but not necessarily the truth. Opinions are often biased. Opinions are often wrong. Your job as a black belt leader in training is to discover the truth for yourself, to embrace that truth for yourself and not simply rely on other people's opinions. So my big question is this: why do we put so much stock in other people's personal opinion when at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter? You and I have been put on this earth on purpose for a purpose, and your goal is to become the very best version of you that you can become, because nobody knows what that person looks like except for you. Other people can have an opinion of what the best version of you look like, but only you and you alone know what the best version of you looks like from within. And if you want to be successful, here's what I'm going to tell you. You've got to challenge what you believe and why. You've got to make sure you know what you believe and why you believe it. You've got to learn to think for yourself and stop allowing other people to do the thinking for you. Remember, and I say it often on this podcast, as you think, you become. And once you stop thinking, you stop becoming. Now, when you improve the quality of your thinking, here's what happens. You improve the quality of your saying, your doing, and becoming. Now, the very first character quality of a black belt leader, and I talk about it in my book, Black Belt Leadership 101, is belief. Black belt leaders believe in themselves, and you, if you want to be successful in life, you've got to believe in you. You've got to be your number one fan. You've got to be your number one cheerleader, and you've got to be your number one encourager to keep yourself built up, focused, and moving forward. Remember, you cannot achieve what you do not believe. That's the lesson learned in the chapter on belief in Black Belt Leadership. Understand that you're going to serve yourself and the world around you at the highest level when you learn to know what you believe and why you believe it. And again, that's a question only you can answer. Other people can have an opinion, but their opinion and $1.89 will get you a sweet tea at McDonald's. So let me leave you with this thought. When you improve the quality of your thinking, you're going to improve the quality of your believing. And when you improve the quality of your believing, you're going to improve the quality of your saying and your doing. And when you improve the quality of your saying and your doing, you're going to improve the quality of your becoming not only the best version of you, but a more successful version of you in the process. So stop worrying about your OPPO and start focusing on improving your own opinion of you. I want to challenge you and leave you with this. Be the real you, not just some OPPO version of you. Hey, I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.